everyone. Welcome to the Steve Maxwell Drums Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on our website at www.maxwelldrums.com and then our reverb stores at Steve Maxwell Drums-Chicago and Steve Maxwell Drums-New York. We also have social media, 2 Instagram accounts, at Maxwell Drum Shop Chicagoland and then at Maxwell Drum Shop. And then also on Facebook, Steve Maxwell and Steve Maxwell Drum Shop. And then, of course, check us out on Twitter at Maxwell Drum Shop. We will interview players, collectors, drum and cymbal builders, and also teachers about all things percussion. And you can go to YouTube if you want to see the video. We'll have pictures of drum shops, of drum sets, badges, cymbals, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's get started. We hope you enjoy it. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So today I'm here with Joe Loma. We just did the 2021 Chicago Drum Show, which we were really happy that it happened because last year there wasn't one. So how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good, Steve. How about you?
I'm a little tired, but
Oh, me too. Me
Good
too.
spirit.
This show is it takes a lot out of you. Yeah.
for sure.
And we're in the shop here is just getting bigger and more impressive.
Thanks.
You guys are doing an amazing job. Yeah. Yeah, you're out of control.
Yeah, we have a problem.
You are out of control. That's great. I just love to
sure.
be surrounded by such cool drums, new and vintage.
Yeah. We bought some cool stuff.
Well,
and,
I'll say, yeah.
Just got that Camco kit from you, so we're
There you
happy
go.
about that.
Can't go wrong with Camco, can you?
Right. Everyone probably listening knows the Camco the sound. I mean, those things just sound amazing. But So usually I just start kind of like chronologically. So yeah, tell me some stories. Like how'd you?
I started out as a baby. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I started playing drums when I was 11 years old, and of course I played in band. And but at 13, I've kind of fast-tracked, and at 13 years old, I was playing with a real successful high school rock and roll band.
Nice.
But the thing is, I didn't have the money to buy a nice drum set, so I bought a used Radio King 24-inch bass drum with a 6.5-inch deep snare drum that I jerry-rigged for a top tom. And the other neighbor sold me a 1920s Ludwig 2-piece brass shell snare drum, worn out nickel.
That's not a bad way to start.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I mean, I
wanted.
wanted a shiny chrome supraphonic. You
Sure.
know? I wanted something shiny and new and flashy. But so anyway, my first gigs, I was playing on that. My actual first brand new drum, I had planned to Ludwig. Of course, I loved Ludwig back then because of their catalogs were wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted just a bass drum, top tom, and floor tom. So I was going to buy it one piece at a time because that's all I could afford.
Did you grow up in Minnesota?
Oh yeah, let's go back there. I grew up in northern Minnesota on the Iron Range.
Okay.
Town of Eveleth, or outside of Eveleth, Ely Lake. And a lot of great players in that area, in northern Minnesota. Yeah, some famous ones came out of there too. Bob Dylan being one of them.
Sure.
Yeah. Great drummers too. Bill Berg is one from Hibbing who's played with Dylan, Blood on the Tracks. Great jazz drummer.
Nice.
Also an incredible animator. He was head animator at Disney Studios. So
Wow.
very talented. Michael Baker out of Duluth, great drummer. Just a lot of Jimmy Hyde, another nice, good player out of Hibbing. I'm just talking about the drummers now. If I talk about everybody, it would take way too long. But
Sure.
And then so they left, and so I got to be the top dog up there.
Yes.
And back in the heyday in the '70s, it was money. Everybody was paying big money, and I would put great bands together. And I wanted to get down to Minneapolis. And we got paid way too much money up there, and the guys would say, "Why go down there? We're doing good up here." And I said, "Because we're going to fall apart up here. There's no place to go after,
So you were kind of always in the rock and roll scene. You were never.
No. I played many different genres of music. I learned even as a kid, I would play everything from polkas and schottisches.
Did you do like school band and stuff like that?
Yeah, for a while. Then I left band after a while. After
What about
a while.
marching? You ever doing marching stuff?
No, I didn't get into the marching thing
Sure.
with the polyester uniforms and.
Yeah.
know, 90 degrees and just out there in the wool hats. And,
there's a picture of me in
sweating
the 90s
your butt off.
with,
The
big, or even the worst were the cold days. We would do football games.
Okay.
And I remember, just freezing rain. And
I thought you guys you deserved the Purple Heart for some of the stuff you did.
Yeah.
But it was funny in band. We were going through the Haskell Hard book. I mean, we're 17-stroke rolls and we're getting pretty advanced. But the whole orchestra was doing songs like Glowworm, and
Nice.
so we'd be sitting on our hands while they're working on the band leaders, conductors working with everybody. And
I remember that. Yeah.
And Glowworm, the part I remember it. It's da 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 click click. And so we asked, could we soup this up a bit? Could we use some of the stuff we're learning? And the answer was no. And one day, I'm from Eveleth, hockey capital of the USA. And in fact, U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame is in Eveleth.
Okay.
And so a lot of hockey is big in Eveleth.
Right.
And Eveleth was into tournaments. And we were at band practice, at band rehearsal, sitting on our hands while everybody else is playing something like Glowworm. And we asked the director if we could go watch the game was going on closed circuit TV. So we asked the director if we could go watch the game, since we're not doing anything.
Sure.
And he said, yeah, go watch the game. He said, but if you do, don't come back. And the whole drum section got up and left. And after that, he only brought in girls to play drums.
Oh yeah.
And I was kicking myself because some of them were really good looking. And I could have been the fox who left. I should have stayed because I was pretty shy back then. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was going to school, there were always a couple girls that were drummers, and they were always super cool girls.
I don't know about it. Yeah, but yeah. So, but anyway, from there.
But what about teachers? Do you have like a kind of a mentor from when you were younger that you want to maybe?
Yeah, I've had just a number of various different teachers and stuff, but nobody I've really stayed with long, or I'm kind of I learned a lot of stuff, and then I would try to make up my own stuff and go out on my own. I'm kind of an inventor.
Sure.
Well, that'll come in later anyway.
Yeah.
But like in the beginning, we'll get back to the vintage drum part, which is mainly what I want to talk about here.
Right.
In the early days, that Radio King set and Ludwig Snare, I took them apart and put them together many times. I just have this habit of doing this with stuff.
Sure.
And then in the local shop where I'd pick up another drum set and take that apart and put it together. And then I started selling these through the local shopper.
Okay.
And that's before they had cheap entry level, or foreign drum sets.
And so this is like maybe the
late 60s.
Late 60s?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, late 60s. And the only entry level set were like Ludwig had a club date, same shells, only to use center lugs, same with Rogers with their tower, and Camco and Gretsch, the Playboy. But anyway, they just put center lugs, and that was kind of their entry level set. Reduced the price a little, and there were no real cheap sets, so people would pay reasonable money for a used drum set in good shape.
Right.
And I ended up going through many, many, many sets like this. And of course, the more you take things apart and put them together, the more you learn about them.
Sure.
Instead of just reading the catalog. It's like, oh, they didn't do that after a while. Oh, this doesn't have to be this way. Or what? The 3-ply. Oh, Gretsch can have mahogany on the inside of a round badge drum.
Right.
It's weird stuff like that. And then of course the big thing was you needed parts to do this stuff. So accumulating parts was the big thing for doing drum sets. So anyway, so that was always so I'd buy sets even if they're bullet holes. I don't care. I could throw the shell if I get parts off them. That's fine.
So you were a Ludwig. Ludwig was kind of your.
Yeah, in the beginning, Ludwig because of the catalog. I didn't have much experience with Gretsch. There weren't too many people playing Gretsch, but Ludwig was king. Of course, the British invasion was brought to you by Ludwig. Even
Sure.
Charlie Watts came over on a sky blue Ludwig super classic set. Mm-hmm. That's what he was playing, at least I think on Ed Sullivan. Before, I don't know if he had the Gretsch set before that or not, before he became a Gretsch guy. But Ludwig was well, of course, Dave Clark was Rogers, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The Rogers Londoner set. But
and what about like did you Did you run into any Camcos early on? Or?
No, never heard of it.
Yeah,
until Tijuana Brass came out.
Ooh, yeah.
Nick Ceroli was playing these drums with these big round cartoon lugs on them. I'm thinking, what are they made out of? Are they even metal? If that was metal, wouldn't they be so heavy you couldn't pick the drum up? But anyway, so that's the first time I saw them. And of course, I was aware that the great Jim Gordon was recording on a Camco set. And so I figured they must be good drums. But it wasn't until later at a consignment shop I saw a real early Camco. It was a 22 bass, 212, 16, and matching snare in silver sparkle. And they were sitting there, and they reminded me of like mines floating in the water. Explosive mines.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they had those big cartoonish lugs again. And I just said, the price was right. I said, yeah, I'll buy this.
Right.
And I bought it, and I was doing some studio stuff back then, and I remember taking it into the studio, and we put those drums up, and immediately the mics, we got a great sound on them.
Yeah, they're so well made. I wonder how George Way invented that lug. I wonder what he was.
I don't know. I don't know what the impetus for that.
For everyone listening, George Way was the It was his company, and then it got bought
George
out
Way
by
was
Camco.
John Rashawn acquired the company from George Way.
Yeah. Interesting story. Camco was like a tool and die, I think.
They made the stands. They made a lot of hardwares in the old. And eventually they wanted to get into the drum business too. For some reason, I don't know.
Lord knows why.
They never became a popular drum. In fact, to this day, I know people who have never seen one for sale. Who have been collecting for like 30 years and they've never seen one. In fact, I was just talking to a friend of mine at the Chicago show. He said, I've been in New Hampshire for over 30 years collecting. I have never seen one Camco drum set. And I said, they're rare. And the way I accumulated them was back to when collecting, people would collect, a lot of times focus on Ludwig, Rogers, Gretsch, and I was focusing on Camco. And one of the only people I think focusing on, very few anyway that I know of. And people would call me up and they said, I came across a Camco set. Do you want it? And I said, yeah, I want it.
Sure.
And they'd send it to me and I asked them, did you play it? They'd say something like, no, I play Rogers. No, I play Ludwig. I asked, did you try it out? Go, no, I play Rogers. I play Ludwig. They're set. They're set. So I said, okay, send it. And that's how I got my Camco sets.
I mean, they were probably inexpensive maybe in like the 80s, probably, right?
Yeah. People didn't know what they were.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like, get this weird, get this weird thing out of my house. You know?
Do you remember when like DW started making their drums? Were you like... probably like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I remember they did weird stuff. Like they had the floor tom was 16 diameter by 17 deep.
Sure.
I'm thinking, you just don't want it to fit in a case or what?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you doing?
Why do we have to reinvent the wheel?
Why do you have to do this? They had. I think they had deep bass drums too. I think Colin Bailey was an early endorser.
The 16-inch and even 18-inch.
Yeah. And that's, of course, that's that would be from the L.A. era to a drum workshop. From the LA era. Of course,
it got split. Tama has the name.
Yeah.
DW has the hardware.
Yeah. Although there is Tama, the Hoshino Camcos that were made in Pennsylvania. I think for about a year and a half. Those are really nice drums.
Like Elvin Jones was.
He was their one endorser.
And they have those lugs that are like, they're similar.
They're round, but they have a protrusion. Yeah, they're protruded out to where the rod goes in.
Those are cool. You have any of those?
Yeah, I have. I have a set with an 18 bass, 12-14 snare, and I have a set with a 22, 12, 13, 16, and a deep custom snare.
I wouldn't even know how to like assess the value of those.
I wouldn't. I don't either. But the finishes were gorgeous. In fact. They sent from Japan. They sent their refinisher over to do the Sunburst. To show them and their goal was to build the #1 drum set.
I love that. It is like a lacquer wood.
Yeah.
It made like Fender guitars. That's like that.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of. I love that. Actually, I showed you that Gretsch kit I got in that.
Yeah, right. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's Sunburst.
Yeah, that's what I call it. Yeah, they have another name for it, but I call it Sunburst.
It's a Sunburst, come on.
For sure.
Yeah, what Horizon, Sunset, Sunrise, Sunset, maybe that? Yeah.
Right.
Oh, what do we, Sunrise, Sunset would be a good name for it, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. We're talking about Sunburst kits, I guess. But anyway, let's back to the, oh, God. So in the early days, one of my first, I was playing vintage drums when I was 11, but I didn't know it. They weren't vintage. They were just too old drums.
Sure.
Way too old for me. I couldn't wait to get my first Supraphonic, snare drum.
How old were you when you got it?
I don't know, but when I got that thing, I shelved the two-piece brass shell 20s Ludwig, and Supraphonic is a phenomenal drum. Alloy Supraphonic.
I was looking for those at the show.
I know.
I spent the whole show looking for. I couldn't get one because they're in demand. Those things, everyone wants one.
but some reason, even as a kid, I realized that, boy, there's something about that other snare drum that sounded really nice.
Right.
That old that 20s two-piece brass shell.
Yeah, that's a feeling that probably every drummer has had. You have this kit, this old kit, and you've been playing on it forever, and you kind of get to know it, but you always you covet this other drum set, and then you get it. And it's always some a little bit of disappointment. It's like
there's something you miss from that old set because that's what you're used to, your sound.
I remember at school, at my high school, we had a round badge Gretsch kit that we used forever, and then they replaced it. And the first time I played the new kit, I think it was like a Yamaha that it was replaced with. I was like, man, this doesn't have the same mojo.
Right.
So it was actually a really weird kit. At my high school, we had a round badge in Black Oyster, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But
from the factory?
It was 60s Black Oyster. Who knows? It had to have been. This thing was very weird. My dad would remember it. Chicago. I went to the Chicago Academy for Performing Arts, which was like an arts high school. In Chicago. It's kind of almost in downtown Chicago, and they don't know where they got it. It was just...
I wonder where it is now, huh?
Yeah, I think it was a probably 1216, I'm guessing. It might have been a 1214.
Probably a 1316.
Yeah.
The name band outfit, they called it.
Yeah.
That was a common one for the 20 bass with a 1316.
They're a little tough to sell some, but that was actually my favorite.
They are a little tough. A lot of people want that little smaller drum.
Isn't that weird, though? I bet someone maybe bought it in the 60s and had it re-wrapped in the 60s, maybe?
That could be. That's it. Because Gretsch wouldn't have had that color, I don't think.
Who knows? Yeah, it did.
Speaking of round badge, a short, funny story. A good drummer in Minneapolis, Dick Bortoluzzi. It goes by the name of Bordo. He was in Turkey, and he was playing over there. And anyway, they went out to see a local band, and they invited him up to play drums, a few tunes. Sure. And afterwards, he talked to the drummer. The drummer only knew a few words in English. Hello, goodbye, thank you, and Gretsch round badge.
Nice. Hey, you've got to know a couple words.
Essential. So for jazz, Dick Bordo's a great jazz drummer, and
cool.
For a jazz drummer, you got to know round badge.
Right.
That's one of the essential words you have to know. But I always got a kick out of that. But anyway, also in the early, I know the first unusual Finnish drum I bought, 1920s. It was a Peacock Pearl Ludwig.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I bought that from a guy in northern Minnesota who had all his stuff out in school buses, old broken down school buses.
Nice.
And you got to realize northern Minnesota it's really cold in the winter.
Oh, yeah. It gets cold here.
Condensation and all this. And it was like it's not a good place to store stuff.
Sure.
He had xylophones and all kinds of stuff in his school bus. He had some shacks and sheds. This was out in the woods. Right. And anyway, but I buy a Peacock Pearl Ludwig and Ludwig late 20s snare drum. And I remember I had that up right by my dash, driving all the way back to the 3.5 hour drive to Minneapolis, just staring at that Peacock Pearl finish.
Had it kind of cracked a little bit?
Yeah, it had bubbled. It was actually a flawed drum that didn't have rods or hoops on it. It just had the tube lugs, and it had a bubble in the finish. Right, and it wasn't something I would even look at today, but the finish just... I was just mesmerized by the finish.
I love that finish. I still
all
have
the way back.
You sold me, remember?
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah, and that one.
Yeah, that's it.
They did such a good job with those finishes. I bet you that was through a similar. It
is. Yeah, life. Right.
And there's almost like cheesecloth under it, which I
yeah, right, yeah,
because that's the secret maybe to getting finish to adhere to single ply.
Yeah,
because if it's single ply, it moves even more than if it's a a veneer type finish. I love that drum, man. I'm never gonna sell that one.
Yeah, I remember you buying. I'm glad you got that drum. Yeah, that's a cool drum.
I use it every now and then. I got usually I have calf heads. I think I have one on the bottom right now, but the top. And that thing's just wonderful. Mahogany single ply.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that Peacock Pearl got me hooked on unusual finishes.
Yeah.
So in the early days, this is way before the internet. Way before the internet, and it's even before Not So Modern Drummer. So I was one of the. I only knew a couple people who had my disease.
Right, yeah, the
VD, vintage drums.
Right. That sounds like a bad one.
VD, he's got VD, vintage drum disease. Yeah,
sure.
So, but way before that, and so I was looking for these old unusual finishes, and finally a friend of mine told me about this publication called Not So Modern Drummer. And it was they used the word mimeographed. It was just copy, just pages copy, just real raw. But anyway, so I got my copy, and all of a sudden I've got a list of names and phone numbers of people who have the same habit.
Oh, you're talking like the end of it, right? There was like ads, like
yeah, there were ads, and then there was the directory.
Right.
It was just probably about just.
What year
a couple
did that
pages.
start? What year did?
Oh, geez, man, what was that?
This is back when we had paper.
Yeah,
like this. Like
actual
it's
paper.
actually for those young people who are.
Steve is holding up paper.
Yeah, this is a
something called paper.
It's not. It's not a phone.
Yeah.
And it stays the same. It doesn't change, but it's very cool.
Analog. You can go and plug the name that started. I'm spacing it out, but so anyway, my phone bill went through the roof. Yeah, it was in the 80s. Yeah. My phone bill went through the roof because I started calling these people that had the same habit that I had, right. And man, we couldn't get off the phone. And back then,
who were some of your early buddies? People that I might.
Oh God, that go way back. Liam Mulholland, of course, John Aldridge. Rob Cook was on early. Yeah, he was,
Right.
Well, let's go back. Not So Modern Drummer. John Aldridge.
Yeah.
He's one of my heroes. I mean, or my wife wouldn't say that, but he's the one who got me connected with all these people from his Not So Modern Drummer.
Yeah.
Issue, publication.
Where was he based at? Where did he live?
Was he in Tulsa, Oklahoma? He's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think it was in Tulsa at that time.
Okay.
And he's been around. Was in Nashville for a while and stuff. But so John was the guy who really got a lot of us together. He was responsible. And then of course Rob Cook, in early '90s, started not only we were on the phone talking to each other for a few years, but we didn't know what each other looked like.
Sure.
And Rob puts us together face to face with his drum shows.
What did you go to the first drum show?
Yeah, I believe I was in the first one or second.
This was in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, I was in. Yeah, I've been in over 30 of them.
Yeah.
So
And I remember that the building it was in is now DePaul University.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't the first one.
That
wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, the first one was elsewhere.
Before that. Yeah, there was even there were a few others. There was one in a Holiday Inn.
Nice.
Yeah. They start small. God, the first one could have been in Rob's bathroom, I'm sure.
Sure.
Just the three of but so I really Rob Cook. I mean, my hat's off to him. And then of course his publications.
Yeah.
Whoa. He's not making $1 million putting these books out. And the Gretsch book and the Leedy George Way book. Oh my God, they're incredible.
Absolutely.
So anybody listening, go buy these books. Support anybody who does a drum book. Support them.
Yeah,
just buy them because they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for you.
Right on.
Yeah. And then, of course, back to John Aldridge, became an incredible engraver of drums too, as most people know.
Right. That's what I think of when I think of him.
Yeah, most people think of him now, but to me, he's the guy who got us all together.
I remember the drum shows probably in the like maybe 2002, something like that, and he'd be there.
Yeah, engraving.
Yeah.
I always wondered, did you get carpal tunnel or what? Isn't it? I would worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's come a long way. Like you said, a lot of people gave him drums to practice on in the beginning. It's a learning curve.
Sure.
And but he's good.
Mistakes.
It's fun to watch him do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. Damn, I should have him do a drum. I've never had him do a drum for me. It's kind of funny because I was the biggest investor in the Not So Modern Drum Company. Mm-hmm. I had ordered 10 drums, and he was trying to make 50 of them.
Okay.
And because the two-piece brass shell, later on I realized that shell was such a great, 1920s Ludwig two-piece brass shell, I realized that drum had magic. And of course the same, that's the Black Beauty shell.
Yeah, those are, if you take one of those and then you put calfskin heads on them, that's probably my most favorite drum to play. The funny thing is I don't own one, because they're so expensive. But if you take
I'll get you one. I'll get you one. I've got a pile of them. So I thought that drum was
nickel. Actually, I don't have to have any engraving.
No, just nickel. The old raw nickel.
Maybe next year bring one. I'll buy it from you.
Yeah, there you go. I'll give you a hell of a deal on it.
Cool.
I'm sitting on stacks of them because I thought that drum was going to go through the roof in price. I thought right now it'd be like a $3,000 to $5,000 drum, but it's not.
Yeah, they go for about $1,200, maybe.
Yeah, really nice one might break 15, but
yeah,
I did see a real nice one. Somebody had I think new old stock at the show.
Oh yeah.
In the box. Ooh. Yeah, late 20s Ludwig, I believe it was a 5x14.
Yeah.
Metal, two-piece brass shell. New old stock in the box, and they had mailed the box, and there were 2 24-cent stamps.
Oh yeah.
To mail that drum.
Cool.
Of course, 24 cents probably bought a lot in the late 20s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like
by a lot of candy
that's
bars.
Like $50 now or something.
Yeah. I know. I don't even know what it is, but I can't wait to see the drum. Yeah. So, but anyway, another thing about the unusual finish, or some people would call them ugly finish drums.
Right.
Back then, they would say, "Hey Joe, I got this ugly finish drum. Do you want it?" And I said, "Sure, I'll take it. I'll take it." And this was before Mike Corrado got on the scene, and Mike really goes for the unusual finishes
when
too.
When did Mike start collecting? He wasn't here this year.
I know Mike came up through Liam Mulholland was kind of got Mike interested.
He's always been in California.
Yeah, in California. Yeah. Liam was running a drum shop up there. Drummer's Tradition, the first version of it.
Yeah.
Robert Bowler has it now up in
I see those
County.
stickers on drums sometimes.
Yeah. So Liam was a hoot. Unfortunately, he passed away years ago, but he was just a hoot. I remember a short one Liam story. We're in the early days in one of the Quonset hut barn type units at the Chicago Drum Show. Liam and I are talking, and a guy comes up to us with a Ludwig Downbeat 4x14 in oyster pink. Only his kind of was brownish pink and really. It was really ugly, put it that way. But anyway, he was very proud of the drum, and he came up to us. He knew who we were, and he was, and showed us the drum. And Liam just recoiled in horror and said, "It looks like roadkill." And the poor guy just went waddling away. It's not what he wanted to hear.
Sure.
But Liam nailed it. It looked like roadkill. Now, some oyster pink is just gorgeous, but every once in a while you get that stuff that kind of browned out.
Roadkill that's been in the sun just for
it looks like roadkill. Yeah. In fact, I was at Bunny's house, and when he received a oyster pink full kit 22 super classic, that's be a 22 bass 1316. I think it was a snare too, and Bunny opens the box up and he said, "How did they get it to turn brown?"
Sure.
And I told him, I said, "Well, you're the only guy who has a brown oyster brown pearl."
Sure.
I keep saying, everybody says pink oyster or blue oyster, but in the catalog it was also always oyster pink or oyster blue.
Yeah.
But it doesn't roll off the tongue as easily, I guess. So
yeah, they all have kind of unique names. Like they would call sparkling pearl. I think Gretsch called the sparkle finishes sparkling.
Yeah.
Fun
I liked in the very early days it was flash.
Oh yeah.
And which was the glass glitter, and it is more of a flash than a sparkle,
I love the glitter. Those are actually little pieces of glass.
Yeah, they're shards of glass, and that's why.
One behind you there, it's a Rogers.
Let's take a look behind me.
Red glitter.
Yes, folks, I'm looking at a Rogers red glitter right behind me with bread and butter lugs, so I call them Liberty Bell lugs because they usually have that crack in them.
Right, sure. Yeah, those
and if
ones...
they don't have that crack, I just say play them, and they will.
Yeah.
But you can still play them with a crack. They work. But now they're really getting very creative at fixing that. Yeah, they're putting them together.
We used to go on vacation, kind of up near you, but in Wisconsin, way far north.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And my dad would always bring B&B lugs, and he would use like liquid steel. We'd all be like out in the lake, or jumping in the water. We used to go toad hunting. We'd hunt toads. We'd find toads. We'd make it s'mores. My dad's there with his drum.
Oh man, how sad is that?
I thought it was.
My wife would never let me do that.
Yeah.
well, with the drums, in fact, I'm amazed. Like somebody like even my good friend Randy Rainwater, and Nancy, his wife, she's a saint because the drums kind of keep creeping into the living area, and they take over. It's like a fast-growing vines,
right?
You know, they keep. And finally, she tells Randy, I'd like that room back.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, ours turned into a shop. That's what.
I know. Well, you're lucky, but even your shop now you bought another shop. It's getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, in fact, you just recently picked up the other build, are moving into the other space also, right?
Yeah, we annexed. It's in the other building, and we're kind of just using it for storage because even this place wasn't big enough for us.
Well, I'm a Finlander. That's somebody who's from Finland, of course. But up in the Iron Range, we have Finlanders. We have Finlander jokes too. So Toivo and Matti, Toivo and Matti walked into a bar or whatever. But anyway, with Finlanders, how many shacks you have, your worth is. You're judged by how many shacks you have.
Sure.
we joke about that, of course.
Right.
My fellow Finns.
That's cool,
my brother's pretty good. He's got quite a few shacks, and they're full. Every time you get a new shack, it's easy to fill it up.
Right.
And
hey, you gotta. Yeah. You got to. The winters are long, so you never know.
Yeah, right. Winters are long and brutal. We have northern Minnesota is one of the most gorgeous lands in the country, weather permitting.
Sure.
In the summer, we have actually 12,000 lakes, although we're called the land of 10,000 lakes. And what we call a lake, it's legit. They're legitimate lakes. They're not puddles like some people might call a lake. And then, of course, the pine trees. And in fact, that's why the Finns really gravitated toward northern Minnesota. It's like Finland.
You boat at all? You got a boat?
Yeah, I've got a 16-foot Lund with a 90 horsepower Honda.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about sailing? You ever sail?
No, I remember one sailing trip. I grew up on a little lake called Ely Lake, 3.5 miles long. We in the summer we borrow my friend. We borrow his brother's boat. It's just a small little boat, but we got the beer on the boat, the most important thing.
Sure.
And we have both sails up, and he tells us. It's pretty windy today. I don't think you guys can handle 2 sails. And we said, oh, we can handle 2 sails.
Boom, yeah.
We made it about 20 yards and tipped it, and the beer went into the drink.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he came out with the motorboat and grabbed us, towed us in.
Sailing's an art, man. Yeah,
it is hard, but I have been sailing. I don't know. There's a real art to it. We've been up in.
It's so quiet.
I know it is.
I could talk.
And
about
I've
that
been
for
in a
hours.
glider. I compared to that to flying in a glider, sailing to being on the water.
Absolutely.
It is just beautiful. It's quiet and the wind. And
you don't have the horsepower, but
no. Well, generally it would be the last one. In fact, I was in the Caribbean. I stayed on I think it was a 32-foot or 38-foot sailboat. Slept on that.
Right.
In the Caribbean islands, and that was really nice. The floating sensation,
Oh yeah, I did Outward Bound up in Maine, and we slept on the boat every night.
Yeah, that's not the rocking, rolling. Yeah. So that was that's.
It was a lot colder up there, though, I imagine.
Yeah, and saying up there around Madeline Island is a great place. There's a lot of islands up there on Lake Superior. A lot of sailboats up there, and that's why I've been on sailboats. Up there.
We're so blessed to have these lakes. They're just
they're big lakes. Yeah, like I'm on Lake Superior, close to Lake Superior, of course.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I do play up there quite a bit in the summer. A wonderful little town called Grand Marais, great artist town.
Did you ever tour when you were?
Luckily I didn't have to. I've in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I learned many styles of music. In fact, I put an ad out. Freelance drummer, all styles.
Nice.
And whether want Tex-Mex, you want Cajun, Zydeco, whatever, but besides the main styles, and full hose cumbias, whatever. And so my setups have always been pretty weird too. Like I even tell people I cannot play a drum set without a cowbell.
Okay.
It's just
I
naked.
like cowbells.
Yeah,
I've got
it's naked
my Gretsch.
to me. Yeah.
I've got the the old Gretches with the middle mount.
Right.
You can't really put a cymbal on there. So
No,
I have an
that's
L
it.
cowbell.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just like in the logo, actually.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to, I made a living for many years right in the cities, and I didn't have to travel. I traveled a little bit to play with one band would back up these acts like Peter Noon and Tommy Rowe, and I got to play with Alex Chilton, got to back him up from the box tops, and Del Shannon, which was pretty cool, and
nice.
Just a lot of different, and got some fun stories out of that, but.
For gigging, what's your favorite setup? What sizes?
I'm known as the Camco guy. In fact, I play a 20. I always say the bass drum first, and I know you guys say the small toms first, but
actually, no, I'm the same. I say bass drum first.
I play a 20-12-14.
But
I play 20-12-14.
Yeah.
20 bass with a 12 on top, 14. I use the cymbal arm, and I use a 20-inch cymbal on that arm, and I have a cowbell holder. And if I smoked, my bass drum would have an ashtray. So that bass drum earns its weight to carry it because it's a Camco bass drum, and they're heavy. They're kind of like Rogers, they're heavy drums, but those big lugs. And Camco bass drums also have those giant spacers underneath the lugs to bring them up. Yeah, those are heavy.
Turret lugs, right.
Yeah. So
for those
there you go, right there. You got one right behind you, Steve. Yeah.
Beautiful. Just happen to have one here.
In fact, when I even bring that set into the studio. Last 2 times in the studio, I brought that set, and engineers are always amazed at how fast we get the sound out of it.
What's a good studio you recording up there?
Last one was Creation Audio in the big room. They have 3 rooms.
I think I've heard of them.
The big room could probably fit an orchestra. And here I'm in the middle of it with my little 20-12-14 Camco set.
Yeah,
it's
reverb,
kind of,
man.
yeah, it's kind of hilarious. It's like, can I get something else in here? It's like,
sure.
But just there's now there's studios everywhere. Another big one but with people are doing decent recordings in their basement and stuff.
Now, I mean,
look at Billie
digital,
Eilish.
Yeah.
Sure. So now it's you don't need a big studio or anything.
It won't quite have the same
No.
but it's. I mean, digital is pretty darn good. You get a little box with 2 ends, and you.
I always like a hero of mine's Lowell George, and he went from Little Feat, and of course Richie Hayward on drums, the great Richie Hayward, and they asked Lowell George, "How do you pick a studio?" And he said one thing: the drum sound. That's it. It's about the drum sound. Everybody else can go direct or in,
Right.
I can't get a good bass sound out of the studio, or my guitar doesn't sound good in the studio. No, it's the drums.
Right on, man.
It's always about the drums.
In our little studio, I'm always obsessing over trying to make the drums sound as good as possible. It's a small room, but you saw I put those wood diffusers up. I'm always doing.
Yeah, right. You experiment. Yeah.
We might put a wood floor in there too soon, which will.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it a little more lively. So
yeah.
You want reverb, but you want good reverb.
Yeah. Okay, well, back to the vintage drums, and then I started a drumstick business, these hot rods. And
this is a cool part of your story.
And.
So tell me about it.
Oh God, this is a whole can of worms here. The drumstick thing, but since we're on vintage drums, I'll just touch on it.
Okay.
But anyway, so I started this on my own and failed. Made the Modern Drummer 10-year anniversary issue in the Where Are They Now section. Products that failed.
What year did you come up with this?
This is '84. Now let's go. Multi-rod drumsticks go back hundreds of years.
Okay. Sure.
So it's. In fact, believe it was Mozart who wrote a piece that required for what he called routes, and that's where Vic Firth got the name from, routes. Vic Firth being a classical guy, he knew that. But it called for banded dowels, banded rods, wooden rods together to play.
Sure.
And in Africa, I'm sure, God, they probably go back hundreds and hundreds,
Thousands, right?
Yeah, probably. So, but anyway, it just got to the point where drummers were using just sticks, mallets, and brushes, really, and goofing around, and I just goofing around, came up with something, and but anyway, I started, and things were just plugging along. I finally went with ProMark, fortunate enough to go with them. I needed endorsers. Because drummers weren't going to buy these out of Modern Drummer magazine, send in your $10 and cut out the coupon and send your $10 in. I think it cost me $1,000 to get a 3rd-page ad, and I sold about a dozen pair of sticks at $10 a pair. So I was originally, it cost a lot of money to sell a pair of drumsticks.
Sure.
So that flopped, and because drummers aren't going to buy them without trying them out.
Right.
And so I was a long story how I ended up with ProMark, but immediately I got Billy Cobham, Bill Bruford, and Carl Palmer as endorsers.
Very cool.
And then I was, okay, drummers, now you can use them.
Yeah,
and then now, okay, we'll use them now, and that's what happened. And things were chugging along, and I was really getting into the vintage drums. I was getting money from drumsticks and putting it into vintage drums. I was going for high-end stuff. And eventually I figured I'd start a vintage drum shop. And I wanted to be the biggest, best shop with the best inventory. And so I would only collect excellent to mint. And we're on the phone now. There's no photos. You had to wait by the mail for photos. So I had to ask people, what condition? Is it faded? Any holes, any altered? I just said, is it perfect? If it's not perfect, I don't want it. Because I don't know, is it a 6.5 out of 10 when people tell me that? I have no idea what that means.
Sure.
Your 6.5 out of 10 is different than my 6 point. To me, there's throwaway, poor, fair, good, very good, excellent, and mint.
Right.
I want mint or excellent. And, and what makes it if it's not mint or excellent, what makes it very good? What's wrong with it? Why isn't it mint? So that's what I would collect, that. And I would only collect or bring in 18 12 14s, 20 12 14s, or 22 13 16s.
Yeah, man.
And that's it. One, because I knew vintage-wise, that's what people would want. And the double tom sets from the 60s, the tom holders were
back
very
in the 60s. I think more people ordered like 2012 16, right?
No, probably the most common set was the Ludwig Super Classic.
Okay.
That was a 22 13 16.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that Super Classic set. Gretsch, of course, their cover set I believe was a name band, a 20-inch bass with a 13-16.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the 22 was optional.
Yeah.
And Rogers had the 20 bass with a 12-16.
Okay, yeah.
That's why Rogers 14-inch floor toms are so valuable.
Yeah, you can go for like $1,000.
Yeah, because people will have that 20-12-16 and they'll want a 20-12-14, so they'll pay.
Yeah.
For that 14.
Like a white green pearl one, you can go for $1,000.
Yeah, right. To put it on, and some people will just either put the 16 behind or use it for a coffee table. I don't know too many people who do play a 20, 12, 14, 16.
Right.
Yeah, generally the double floor tom is generally associated with a 22 or 24, bigger bass drum kit.
Big band,
yeah.
Right. Buddy Rich.
Or something, at least you can put your towel and drink on the last tom.
Yeah.
But yeah, big band set, yeah. Or even a hard rock set, a heavy rock and roll set, but usually be a 13, 14, 16, 18 or something like that, oversized. But yeah. But to me, a 20, 12, 14, I'm my own drum tech. These fit behind my wife's little Volkswagen Tiguan, behind the back seat.
Sure.
With a 5x14 snare. Everything fits in there. When I get it packed, I can still fit a deck of cards. Yeah. I have to pull a couple out, slip them here, slip them there, but,
Sure.
Yeah, but anyway, and it fits on any stage, so it's,
You always bring the really awesome stuff to the show, and I'm so happy we did the show this year. It was great fun. Probably less people than usual, but it was still.
Yeah, it was about half this year, but I was so thankful that it happened and got out of the house and got to see.
Me too,
man. All friends. All if we haven't talked for it's been a long time.
Everyone
2 years.
Forgot how to socialize.
Yeah.
Hello.
No, I've been social distancing since 1969. So.
Sure, that's nothing new to me.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of aloof.
But you always.
You're a what? I'm aloof. We need something to rim shot here, Steve.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we should have.
We got enough drums here.
What the hell? We got enough drums around, and how about a splash cymbal and a snare drum here?
we gotta get Noah in here.
But anyway, let me back to opening my vintage drum shop. So I got all these pristine kits coming in. I'm specializing in Camco, Gretsch, Rogers, Ludwig, and some Slingerland, but Slingerland's kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of drums. They're great drums, but people won't pay for them.
Right.
You know, it's they get no respect. No respect. I told my dentist I got yellow teeth. He said, wear a brown tie.
Right.
Yeah. And so anyway, but it was a 2012 Forte or 20. I'd go for it, and so I'm piling these up, and all of a sudden my drumstick business, the unplugged craze hit, and this is I think like in '92. Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Steve Ferroni was in the studio with Clapton, and they're all acoustic, and Steve's sitting there with brushes, and what do I do? And the producer had a pair of my hot rods, and they gave them to Steve. And Steve used those. And of course, that was the heyday of MTV.
Right, yeah.
Now that album, Eric Clapton's Unplugged album, won everything that year in the Grammys. Yeah. MTV was all over him, and those camera guys are bored. I've seen flat top acoustic guitars. I've seen pianos. What are these? What's that drummer got in his hand? So they'd always be on these and they're bright red for a reason.
Right.
So they stick out. I said, I want the brightest. If I could get fluorescent red, that would have been it.
You can't.
In fact, back up, ProMark at one time said, let's offer them in designer colors. And I said, no. I said, drummers they can't remember the name of them.
Sure.
You know, at that time, ProMark was calling them multi-rods.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In fact, this is a funny little story. Finally, no drummer could remember that name, multi-rods. Nobody could remember. All they knew, they're bright red. These stick things that are bright red, chopsticks, I don't know what do you call them, you know. So I call up Herb Brockstein, the great Herb Brockstein, from the president of ProMark. Good drummer, too, by the way. And I said, Herb, I think we got a problem with the name. And Herb says, what's that, Joe? And I said, multi-rods. Don't give drummers 3 syllables. And there's a long pause, and all of a sudden Herb says, you're right. This is a serious conversation now. And he said, what do you suggest? And I said, well, our come on in our ad is hot rods. And I said, if we call them hot rods, drummers will shorten it to rods, to 1 syllable. You know, drums, sticks, brushes, heads, rods. You know, and he goes, great. Let's call them hot rods then.
Yeah, man.
And that's how the hot rods name came. Because they're originally multi-rods.
Marketing 101 here.
Yeah, they're marketing 101 here. Yeah, so I wanted to get it down to a 1 syllable. But anyway,
cool story,
that unplugged craze hit, all of a sudden a tidal wave of orders came in.
Yeah.
MTV all over them, the biggest album of the year.
Could you guys not make them fast enough?
No, we couldn't.
It was a wait
We
time.
couldn't. And so I brought on more people, but it was a slow process because I wanted to keep quality control up. These are in packages. I didn't want people taking them out and rolling them or checking them, inspecting them. So I created a 3-point quality control system so we could put out perfect models.
Where were you getting them manufactured?
We manufactured them in Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Awesome, man.
And the wood originally came from Minnesota birch, but they failed miserably.
Oh, they
had a
made out of
50% throwaway rate.
Oh, no.
And all these dowels are gone through by hand for knots,
Were they just
splits, oblongs. Yeah, every dowel's checked by hand, so this is labor intensive.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never come across a pair that wasn't,
Yeah, ProMark never had returns, so they were the quality.
Birch instead of hickory, because maybe birch is a little.
Yeah,
bit...
birch can plane tiny. You can small little dowels. You can get 1/12-inch dowels, which is really small.
But hickory wouldn't.
For some reason, other woods don't plane that small, and I don't know the whole science behind that. But anyway, then Nirvana came out with the Unplugged album.
That's what I always think of when I think of the Unplugged.
And that meant, okay, kids, now you can use the hot rods. Sure. A whole nother tidal wave of orders.
Yeah.
We were back ordered for 3 years.
Wow.
Unfortunately, ProMark allowed me to slowly catch up to keep the quality control up, because I told them for me to keep the quality what it is, I can't just bring a pile of people on and just say, spit them out, throw them out the door here. Right. I said, this is a process that people have to learn. And we did. We bring gradually more people in to learn it. And we got caught up in 3 years.
Nice.
And in the meantime, these drum sets are coming in, and they're getting stacked, throw them in the warehouse, get them in the,
Sure.
And they're all excellent to mint. The sized kits that I preferred.
Right.
And then I realized I'm not going to open up a vintage drum shop. The drumsticks are going way too good.
Sure.
I was doing really well on that. So I started selling drum kits, and it's pretty easy to sell them when they're excellent to mint.
Right on.
That's what people want. no issues.
So this is kind of like, I guess the people really started getting into the vintage stuff around the 90s. Everything just price went up and up and up.
Let me back up too. I was also snare drums were coming in too.
Yeah.
Usually 20s. I really went for 1920s, 30s. Especially Ludwig and Ludwig. That time, those were the few. Leedy made gorgeous one-piece wooden shells with nice bearing edges. Of course, their hardware was less desirable. Their speedway throw-offs and stuff, they were kind of pretty cheap.
You have to basically twist it a little bit to
right,
It back.
Keep it lubed up, yeah. And then the Gretsch Micro Sensitive came out in the 60s, which I say was the shape of it its design is in the shape of a tombstone for a reason. I always said you got about 57 throws on that thing before it destructs.
Sure.
So before you throw it on a tune, you got to ask a series of questions. Is this song worth it? How much am I getting paid? Band, if I'm going to throw the wires off, we're going to do all our tunes with wires off at one time before I throw them back on. This series of questions. And of course, you guys came up with the incredible reproduction.
Sure.
Which works.
It's got that button on it.
So, but throw-offs, I think back then, Rogers made a beautiful throw-off in the 60s.
Yeah, there's always work.
There's nice. Even Ludwig's worked. Yeah. Based simple design, it worked.
For hardware, I mean, Rogers was probably the innovator.
They're Swivomatic, especially
except
for tom holders.
The lugs didn't work out.
The lugs kind of, the Liberty Bell lugs. So they overdid it on the beaver tail. They really designed a nice lug for that beaver tail lug. But the floor tom brackets, I know they would also poke a hole in my fiber cases. The key rod.
Sure.
Using a key to. I've always liked Ludwig 60s stands and their brackets for legs, floor tom legs and stuff. Just a simple design, lightweight. And then I became, as I got more money through the drumstick business, I went for higher end, especially unusual finish drums. That's what I really
you brought some finishes I've never seen before. And then I remember last year there was this like white and black, I think it was maybe a Ludwig. You remember the one I'm talking about? It's like a kind of a white, it looks like a zebra pattern kind of.
Oh yeah, the Ludwig and Ludwig. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's an uncatalogued finish from the 20s. Of course. Speaking of unusual finishes, my 1951 Gretsch. It's a 22 13/16 with a 6.5 deep snare. Mm-hmm. I called it the Kahlua and Cream, and the only people and of course, Steve Senior asked me to send the 9x13 to the Gretsch factory, so they could duplicate the finish, and that's where
espresso.
You call it espresso burst, or it's just espresso?
You could do either.
Okay, I don't think you could call it Kahlua and Cream. I think that's copyrighted.
Really?
I call it Kahlua and Cream because that's what it looked like. But it's funny that 51 set looks. The guy who played it took such good care of it.
Yeah.
There was a great story behind it. He bought it it was 51. He bought it in 52 at Growth Music in south of Minneapolis in Bloomington. Mm-hmm. When he passed away, it was a few years back, maybe about 7 years ago, his widow went back to Growth Music. They're still there.
Wow.
And she said, "My husband bought the set from here. Would you be interested in it?" And fortunately, it got transferred to me through a good friend of mine there, and Bill Paul, wonderful drummer, wonderful salesperson. I ended up with the set. I gave her a really strong money. I opened it up, original calfskin heads, everything on it, and I just said, "Oh my God!" I wasn't, I told her, I said, "This set is unbelievable." I said, "It's not a catalog color. I've never seen anything like it." Yeah. And of course, we're talking about this is the original espresso burst.
And you brought it to maybe the 2012 drum show, maybe?
Probably, yeah. I brought it there, and I brought it there, and
there's a video somewhere on YouTube of you just to walk around, and you see the kid in there. We got some photos too. I think my dad took of it.
I picked the setup, and not only. He had the original receipt for it.
Wow.
And he had he bought it on layaway or payment. He had his receipts for his payments. And later he bought some Zildjian hi-hats, receipts for that, this and that.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't throw anything away. So I have all that.
Very
and
cool.
so it's definitely a Minnesota set. In fact, I should set it up, have Growth Music set it up in their store with the history of it.
Yeah.
And so people can look at it. But I did bring it to the show a few years ago, and people were kind of walking by, and they thought it was a brand new one.
Right.
One of your new sets. I had to put a big
I think I
sign
read
on
that,
saying,
yeah.
this is a 1951.
Yeah, right.
This isn't brand new. What? And that's how clean it is.
It's like, yeah, the original one that you have it's kind of like a lacquer, I guess, some kind of
Yeah,
lacquer
it's they
over
lacquered
a
the
pearl.
shell first, and they put like a translucent pearl over it.
Wow.
So that lacquer, the sunburst lacquer, is on the wooden shell.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the hoops, instead of black, they painted them a real dark brown to match that dark color.
Yeah. Our
And,
prototype one has like brownish lacquer hoops on it. Which
Yeah.
is cool because most of the ones now they come with an inlaid hoop. But yeah, it's
Well, this was inlaid too, but the hoop was actually dark brown.
Oh,
painted.
it
Yeah,
does have it.
The
Okay.
original is inlaid, but
Yeah.
and you guys are probably the only people I would send that to Gretsch for. I mean, I was nervous about it because
Sure.
of course it was sitting on the factory shelf for a month, so I had to kind of, hey guys, we need the drum back.
Yeah, for sure.
Without that 13, the set just doesn't look right.
right.
Although some people will play a set like that, but you don't want to present it that way. So, but anyway, that's one of another Minnesota set.
Yeah.
And I do collect Minnesota drums. I'm going to have a feature here. There's some really unusual drums. In Duluth, the Baldwin snare drum out of Duluth, Minnesota, oh God, this is way back they made this. It was a cast shell with aluminum shell on top and bottom, that telescope inside. You could adjust it from, I believe, 4.5 to 8 inches deep with thumb screws.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So if you're on the gig and say, this gig, I got a 5 this gig might require a 6.5 inch deep snare drum, or maybe a 6 3/4 inch deep snare drum.
Does Baldwin have anything to do with the piano company?
No.
Just
I'm sure it's probably his last name. In fact, there's a real rare drum out of Minneapolis called an A.M. Hoskins, the original 3-way tuning snare drum. 3-way differential tuning. It's thumb screws instead of key. Two double thumb screws on the top. One controls the top head, the other controls the bottom head, and both together control both heads. Patented
that to a show
yeah,
once?
it was 1933, I believe, the patent, way before Billy Gladstone's patent.
Wow.
So that 3-way idea goes way back.
Did you bring that to a show?
Yeah, I did.
This
that
rings
was.
a
I
bell.
brought
think
three 3-ways. I call
Yeah.
3-way. That the original 3-way. I brought the Gretsch 3-way, Gretsch Gladstone 3-way,
Right.
and then of course a Billy Gladstone 3-way.
Yeah.
And so I had examples of 3-way drums there.
That's a triumph.
But that's a
of-
Minnesota drum, and also there's a Lalonde. I'm spacing his first name, out of Virginia, Minnesota. Designed drums, very unique drums that you could put a calf membrane over, and with two pieces of circular pieces, they would slap together over it, and you tighten them, and then you cut the outer edge off, and you wouldn't have to tuck the head.
Okay.
And then some of them were tuned by just a key on each side, or by a tension rod on each side, or some of them had 4 tension rods.
Wow.
And very unique drums. I know Mike Corrado has one, and I have one.
Yeah.
Another Minnesota drum. So I'm gonna one of these shows. I'm just gonna have Minnesota drums.
Cool.
And Lalonde out of Virginia had the pedal, incredible pedal in the early 30s. He had the patent on it, really advanced.
So these are name a couple of Minnesota companies that
Well,
were
Lalonde's. Hey, how about Martin Fleetfoot?
Okay.
Bass drum pedal. That's the
even know anything
that's
about
the
this.
face that launched 1,000 ships. That's where the Camco and Gretsch floating action came from.
Okay.
They're the identical pedal,
Did
just
not
a
know
different
that.
name on the and that's where that turned into the drum workshop.
Right.
Lineage still back to that pedal, and that pedal is to this day it would be a great pedal to play.
So floating action pedal. What's the difference mechanically?
Well, floating, I guess, on the original floating, I think they meant the heel plate was attached with a leather.
Okay.
Float is, I believe that's why they call it floating.
Huh.
I hope that's why they called it floating. I don't know why else. I don't think any else.
I
Floating,
know the
that would
ones you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't-
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think however your foot would hit it, it would like an Asba Caroline pedal. Are you familiar? The foot plate just has a strap at the back holding the foot plate to the
we have one of those
bottom mechanism. So the foot will swirl.
People rant and rave about those. Everyone's always talking about those.
Yeah, I play one to this day. I play I call it Asba Caroline.
So these are from France. That's
France.
French one.
I'm from France.
From France.
I'm from France.
France is.
Well, you have some Asba drum sets here. They were cool too back in the day. Really advanced.
And they're back. Yeah, they're.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I was looking at that. They look great.
We have 3 kits. We still haven't put up a video with one of them. But
You should.
Telling my dad to.
In fact, your dad was telling me he's got an Asba he's been playing. He goes, he loves it.
Yeah.
So now I'm intrigued. And his is probably a 20 bass drum, right?
Probably for those who are listening, I bet you most of you haven't even heard of that company, but it's very.
Asba out of France.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. It really advanced. We had a real drum guru in Minneapolis named Ollie Manley who worked at Dahlgren Drum Shop. Later turned into Dahlgren Thompson Drum Shop, but Ollie was a real. He would soup up Speed Kings. He'd take these high performance bearings and put them in them. And he was a real. He knew the bolt size of everything on every piece of hardware, and he was just one of these real scientific gearheads.
Yeah.
And. Cars too and stuff. But anyway, but he brought the Asba pedal into Minneapolis, and I think he was also responsible for Camco drums coming to Minneapolis.
Okay.
But that area, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. St. Paul is the capital city, so I should say Minneapolis, St. Paul, the metro area in Minnesota. Right. So Ollie Manley brought that stuff in, and because he realized the quality. He realized Camco quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, where other people didn't. And even back then, they'd order the Gretsch sets. They wouldn't put the mounts on them. Back when they had the monster mount, they called it, I believe.
Monster.
That's where they drilled the big hole in the drum, put the big ball and socket thing, and that big flat piece of metal on the bass drum. And
so you're talking about the Camco mount?
No, the Gretsch.
Oh,
Gretsch monster mount. They called it monster because it was so scary. I think that was before that custom research hardware.
The first one that they made after they used the rail.
It was in the 70s they made it. Yeah, the one right after the rail.
Right.
Yeah, that's where they put that big hole in the top tom and the big flat piece on the bass drum with the 2 holes in it and a little circular, little curved metal piece that would fall off and get lost. And
sure.
It was a disaster. So they wouldn't even put those under. They'd highly suggest, we'll put another mount on, whatever you want. If you want Ludwig or you want this or whatever. And so
Camco one's pretty cool, like that triangular kind of.
Yeah. A lot of those didn't hold up though. The nylon socket part would fail.
Yeah,
and that's
so many of those kits, it's gone. Yeah, it's missing.
Yeah, if you set it and forget it, you were okay. But if you keep resetting it, it would fail on you. And that's why they're missing. And as the great Jim Gordon did, he put the Ludwig mount on it. Like you guys just picked one up from me with that Ludwig mount on it. Yeah. And like I said, if you want to put that old Camco triangle, it'll cover the holes.
We'll probably keep
leave it as it is.
Yeah, because
whoever
I don't
let
know
them
where
deal
I'm
with
find
it.
one of those Camco.
No, it'll cost an arm and a leg anyway.
For sure.
Yeah, you don't want to spend $300 or $400 for the mount, especially to resell it.
Right.
If somebody buys it, if they want to put that on, let them put it on.
Yeah, but it'll be in the listing. It's an
right.
option.
It's your option, but you can put it on and cover the holes and make that back, the original.
What's like a cool Camco finish you have? Rare Camco finish.
Well, the rarest one I had, in fact, this is the famous set. That this was must be 10, 12 years ago now. The 3D Moray, and for you don't, it's like a wiggle pitcher. I imagine it's white bubble wrap in a wiggle pitcher. Yeah, so as you look at it, it moves on you. So, you could have flashbacks if you were a 60s acid guy or something. Whoa. Be careful looking directly at this drum set.
Right.
But it was a 2012-14 matching snare that's mint, and it was my personal set. And I brought it to the Chicago show just to show. Right. Most of the stuff I bring is to show. I bring stuff to sell too. But I bring stuff to show because it's a show. It's like a car show. Not everything's for sale there. A lot of people, they show it,
Right.
And some people got to get mad. What are you showing? Were you teasing me? I go, no, it's a show. And but I brought it to show, and a guy came up I never saw before. I'm not going to mention. I don't know if he wants to mention the name, so I won't mention his name. But
sure.
And he out of the blue, this set would have been worth maybe $3,000 to $4,000 because it's so rare and beautiful. He came up at that time, and he said, "I'll give you $7,000 for that set." And I arrive at the show pre-fried from no sleep and trying to get everything together. As I'm sitting, I'm thinking, I don't know. I said, I'm setting up. I talked to me later or whatever. I brushed him off. I didn't know him. I thought he was blowing smoke,
Sure.
up somewhere. And, so anyway, for later on that night, setting up the previous Friday night, he comes over, he goes, okay, $8,000. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who he is, but I go, okay. I said, cash? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. And it's one of those kits I never wanted to sell.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where
yeah,
you got to sell it.
Do you think guy still owns it probably?
Yeah, you got to sell it. So I said, you obviously want this kit a lot more than I do. So anyway, he gives me $8,000.
Not too bad.
Yeah, cash for it. Right. And then of course that kit, I know you know the fellow very well, and he had the kit for quite a while, enjoyed it and stuff, and he decided to sell it, and it sold through you and went out to San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
And through another person we know real well.
Yeah.
And she had it. I'm kind of narrowing it down.
Yeah, most of you know what we're
but she's
about.
Wonderful collector, great collector. But she had it and enjoyed it for quite a period of time, and she decided let's let somebody else enjoy this set, and again sold it through you. And I think it was around that same amount of money, and it sold again to another great collector from I think New York City or New York area.
Yeah.
And
I've seen this kit a couple times.
Yeah, and so it sold 3 times for around $8,000 or more. And it's funny, somebody came up to me and he asked, "So what do you think that kit's worth?" And I'm scratching my head. I said, well, let's see. If it sold for $8,000 for the 3 times, I'm thinking about $8,000.
Yeah,
maybe.
Right around there.
Yeah, probably. I think it's established itself already, hasn't it? And it's a case of, I always say, always collect the best top, and there are always people who pay more for mint condition. They want, let's face it, it's not like guitars. Guitar collectors will get on me like, you drummers, you're so fussy, And I said, hey. You got 2 dozen guitars, you can still fit them in a room easily, or even a big closet.
Yeah.
Try to fit 2 dozen drum sets in a room.
Right.
So we're fussier. So drum sets, there's a scratch, look at that. Oh, there's a hole on the bottom of the bass drum, forget it. It's like, so the drummers they're just fussier. Although they're getting less fussy now.
Yeah.
I see the change. In fact, in case the Camco set I gave you, it's got road wear on it. It's checkered, it's got nicks.
Honestly, I like that. So,
yeah.
Some of my favorite kits I've ever played. I like Gretsch late 70s or 80s kits that are just beat up.
Yeah, they're nice.
18,
nice.
12, 14s that this thing has been thrown downstairs. But it's just they sound so good. They're those old Jasper shells, which I don't know if it makes huge difference, but and they have so much I don't know.
They earned it. Yeah, they earned it.
Yeah, it's got
this set,
soul.
Yeah,
I don't know.
this set's made some music.
It's been the drum cases have the big A on it for Anarchy. It's been a punk rock band. It's been a metal band. It's been
yeah. Oh God, yeah. Well, this set I was looking at now. That's an LA Camco set he got from me. It's a 22, 13, 16.
Right.
Surprisingly, I know a number of the top Camco collectors. None of us can recall ever seeing an Camco Los Angeles 22, 13, 16.
Oh yeah.
This is the only one. Maybe we have, but we can't remember. But they're usually double toms on top.
Right, totally.
Yeah, and that's the only ones we can remember. And this was a catalog set for them even.
Yeah.
But you'd think there'd be more 22, 13, 16. But they're usually 22, 12, 13, 16s, or 24, 12, 13, 16s, or, that configuration.
I can't think of really seeing.
Yeah, in L.A. Now, Oaklawn there is, of course, the big Oaklawn player, another one beside, Nick Ceroli from Tina Brass, Jim Gordon, the tons of songs were recorded on Camco in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, Doug Clifford, Cosmo from Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
There's that great Camco. Listen to the drums on those albums. Yeah, and that's a 22, 13, 16 Oaklawn kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jim Gordon, even from Oaklawn to Chanute, he played both.
Great recording.
Yeah, great recording drums.
Absolutely.
They were probably more common in studio than anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, than playing. I should say what Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson.
Yeah.
Played a set out there, Of course, Alice Cooper's drummer, they won't mention him, but in the catalog, but they had Alice Cooper blue and Alice Cooper white. Yeah. But they don't mention the drummer.
That's funny.
But Alice Cooper, I didn't know Alice Cooper played drums. Honestly, I thought he was just saying, but
you wanted to name drop the
name drop. Here's his color, white and blue. That's from the L.A. era of Camcos. Yeah, L.A. era of Camcos.
So, do you remember when you first kind of got to know my dad?
Oh wow, that goes way back.
I was probably there, but I was a little runt at this point.
I'm trying. I can't remember the first time we met. But I knew he had taste. He had good taste.
I remember first show that I went to.
I also remember he still is a great player.
Oh sure,
good chops, nice, nice. It's nice to hear people.
He was the Dynasonic guy.
He was the Dynasonic guy, and I remember
buying those. You've
never he and a few different people. Yeah, I remember the wooden Dynasonic craze.
Did you ever have a collection of wooden Dynasonics?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't get rid of it before the bubble burst.
Oh, no.
I remember the wooden Dynasonics. That's a case of about three, but your dad, one of them. I always joke around, it's 3 people with too much money who decide they're going to collect one of every color in a wooden Dynasonic. Sure. And all of a sudden, people are paying over $2,000 for a blue sparkle Dynasonic.
Yeah.
And I'm scratching my head thinking, geez, I like power tones better. And even some of the people collecting wooden Dynasonics.
Especially wood ones. The metal ones sound better.
Yeah, any wood Dynasonics were saying, I like power tones better too, but I collect wooden Dynasonics.
Right. Yeah, their Dynasonics are like super dry.
Yeah.
You know what I like Dynasonics
Oh, they're gorgeously built, especially the lacquered interior and everything. I mean, they're a masterpiece of engineering and stuff. But
what finishes have you had on those?
Oh, God, I've had like red onyx in 6.5 and 5. I still have a white marine pearl 5 and a 6.5.
Yeah.
I usually say beaver tail. They're all beaver tails.
Okay.
I'm allergic to bread and butter lugs.
Sure. Yeah.
I had a bad experience with them. I sold a set to Ned Ingberman one time. That was a mint black diamond beaver tail, 22, 13, 16 Dynasonic, wood matching Dynasonic, with the all original heads with the instructions on the bottom head of the Dynasonic on how to tune it.
Right.
And so this set looked like it came out of the showroom. I sent it to Ned, and I don't know if it was true or not, but he told me all the lugs were broken, cracked. And I spent the next year trying to find bread and butter lugs. And now it gives me anxiety just to look at them. So it's just personally. I know some people there. I know it's a gorgeous design and that stuff, but it's just my experience with them.
I've always liked the way they look, but and if anyone out there has one of those, just maybe if you're storing it, just loosen the heads a lot, because if you keep them really taut, it's going to get worse and worse.
It's a Liberty Bell lug. If they're not broken, play it, they'll break. And but like I said, they're restoring those lugs now. There's people who do it very successfully. They have
Are
a
they
system
like
for
welding
that.
them now?
I believe they're doing some welding.
Laser welding.
Yeah. I don't quite know how. I don't want to go into it. I'm spacing out how they do it, but
I know that cymbal repair has gone. People taking those old Ks and.
Is that my old set then? I don't know.
This one's a 22, 22, 13.
Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, okay, no. Yeah. I have so many old Camco kits. I know where most of them are.
Your one, if I remember correctly, does have some checking on the top of the 20, right?
On mine?
Yeah, I think.
I don't think they did. I can't remember.
It may
unless
not
they
have
do
had
now.
it when you had it. But
yeah, it may have
traveled
developed
around the country so
One
much.
thing, folks, satin flames, or Camco called satin flame moire, which is French for wiggle, I think.
Nice.
Moire. But satin finishes.
White wiggle.
Don't scratch them, folks, because you're not going to get that scratch out.
Yeah. And you can see here, this guy. They just. I think it's the humidity, and then
from the hole it goes out. Yeah.
Right. And so you can't really avoid that.
That's why I've gotten rid of all my moire kits. I had a blue moire that looked like brand new.
Oh man, that's cool.
I called it the Beach Boy kit. Yeah. 2012, 40. It looked like brand new. I had it at the Chicago show one year. I came and just a show, and I walked back to my booth, and some guy's got the floor tom over his head, and he's looking into the light over. It's completely over his head, and I'm looking at him. And I come up to him. I grab the drum, take it away from him. I put it down, and I said, don't start working out with my drums.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
That's funny.
People just. I remember once bringing a gold plate, 24 gold-plated Ludwig gold drum. Somebody did. This is back when gold was cheap. They gold-plated the whole drum.
Oh yeah, you talked about this earlier in the show, yeah.
It's amazing. You need sunglasses to look at. In the sun, forget it. You're going to burn your.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they put it. It's like a.
They had everything gold. They had everything gold, and that's a stip like a sparkle pattern. Only it's on a wooden metal shell. I don't know what it is, but it's like a sparkle pattern, but on a metal shell.
And there's Ludwig gold, and then there's gold stipple.
Yeah, stipple gold would be a thicker version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a really cool Ludwig gold when I first started here, maybe 7 years ago. No, going on 10 years ago now. And I remember that one. That was a really nice drum. It kind of cracks though.
Yeah,
that's just.
But I had the gold one at the show, and it looks like a brand new 1920s drum.
Yeah.
Because it's brand new gold plated, and after it got gold plated, nobody hardly touched it, of course.
Sure.
And I have it for sure. And I'm watching some guy there. He's got the drum in his hands. He's rolling it all around, touching every part of the drum. I finally went up to him. I said, I think there might be a square inch on there that you haven't touched yet.
Oh man.
What are you doing? This is gold plate. Does the drum have to be totally handled all the way around?
Right.
It's like, so I generally don't put don't touch.
Like
that's why when I put up a Billy Gladstone, now I put don't touch.
Yeah.
Because some people just don't. And then if they ask me, I said, yeah, can I handle it? I said, go ahead. Or like Bunny even gave me a pair of gloves. He said, you haven't put gloves on.
That's smart.
Yeah, put some gloves on.
People don't do that.
Yeah, and especially if it's lacquer hardware. Like chrome is tough as nails. You just wipe it off. It's no big deal. But if it's a lacquer hardware or lacquer finish, gloves would be a good way to go. But I'll let people handle it. I'm going to have next year's show at Rob Cook's show. I'll have Billy's personal Billy Gladstone there.
Oh, cool.
And I've been waiting. I wanted to display it at the 30th anniversary, but I want everybody there to see it. I'm going to display it.
What's the finish on that one?
Gold finish with gold hardware.
Okay, nice.
This is the one that came.
Kind of?
Yeah, gold lacquer finish.
Shell.
It's gold hardware, and that's
cool.
and it's the deep one, and it's the one he played.
And then what's the name on that one? Who?
Billy Gladstone. So, he put his own name on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He goes. Are like they have.
Well, he just put under me. Or mine. Like I have a set of all the Peisty Sound Edge hi-hats, and I take them out of the case. I'm going to try these for a while. I look at in marker, I put mine. It says mine on there. I goes, well, these must be mine. Yeah. But anyway, no, his name is on there, and that's it, his name. Cool. But I'll show that, if somebody wants to handle it, they can put on gloves and handle it.
Is there a picture of that drum in the old Gretsch book?
There might. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people don't know where it was for many years. I've had it for many years, and I wanted to display it out of respect for Rob Cook. I wanted to display it at his show.
Yeah.
That's why I want to unveil it there. And the 30th, I wanted to do it at the 25th, but the vehicle I rented to come down with, they didn't have for me. They gave me like a glorified ice cream truck. I didn't even know if the vehicle would make it. They said, we're all out of minivans, what I rented. Oh, we got that thing back there. It's like, it was a real rattle trap. And I just said, the Billy's not going down this year. Because I don't know the value of that drum, but it's up there. Yeah. And I didn't want to wear it around my neck like, with Flavor Flav or like a clock or whatever, So I didn't want to be latched to it with handcuffs. So,
sure.
But next year's show, it should arrive at next year's show. And if somebody wants to handle it, they can put on gloves and handle it. Go ahead. Go ahead, it's there. And eventually I'd like to get it someplace where people, maybe the MIM, if you don't know what the MIM is, it's the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. It is incredible. It's a destination site. When you go there, they ask, do you want a 1 day or 2 day pass?
Ooh.
And I say, what? 2 day? And they said, yeah. And the lady said, you'll see what I mean.
They have that much
I take
there,
the 1 day pass, and as I'm leaving, I said, wow, easy 2 days here. Cool. They have instruments from all over the world. It is a massive building, just
I've always wanted
massive.
To drive out
It's
west.
in the northern Phoenix suburb. It is incredible. I can't say. Everybody who has seen it just raves about it. Even check it out online a little bit. And they have installations. I think I was there when they had this was funny. They had the birth of the electric amplifier, guitar amplifier installation. And, people all put their stuff on loan, famous guitar, Clapton's guitar, George Harrison's guitar, all this amp, all this stuff, incredible stuff, all these incredible guitars and amps in these massive, the big rooms. And there's only one drum set in the middle I'm walking up to it. It's a Camco drum set.
Nice.
I'm going, what's a drum set doing in the middle of this amplifier installation? And it's Cosmos. Doug Clifford's from Creedence Clearwater. It's his set.
Cool.
His Walnut Camco 22, 13, 16. That's the only original. It had a newer Supraphonic on it and stuff. But you could tell it was really beat up. So you could tell, man, this thing's got some, this has history. This set has serious mojo.
Been around the block.
And they even had him talking about it, and they said, man, we were playing so loud. He said, I kept breaking cymbals, cracking them night after night after night. And the solution to the problem was, buy more cymbals.
Sure.
And back then, the drummer, God, sometimes they probably wouldn't even mic the drums.
Yeah.
Or they put one overhead mic or whatever, you know.
For live shows.
Yeah, oh, what a nightmare.
It must have been interesting. I watch, let's say, for example, maybe like Weather Report, some of like the fusion stuff that was going on.
Yeah, was that with Eric Gravatt by any chance? Or
on drums?
Yeah.
This was probably Peter Erskine.
Oh, later, yeah. Eric was your first guy, yeah.
But
who was Minneapolis guy? Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Incidentally,
yeah. But yeah, Weather Report. Oh, what a great band.
Oh, but
Jocko. Yeah,
it seems like back then
yeah.
the house mixes were maybe like a little less like blow your head off bass.
Yeah,
and that's cool. Nowadays, man, everyone's just obsessed with bass. And
yeah, I know. Yeah,
you go play a show. I've played shows at like little clubs.
Yeah.
And you get the sound guy like, all right, play your bass drum. It's like a jazz show kind of, you know?
Yeah,
or maybe
right.
like a fusion show. And I'm like, okay, boom.
He's trying to make you sound like Bonham, right?
Yeah, it's like I don't need all that, man.
This isn't hard rock, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
I always tell young drummers, I say, when you get to a club, make friends with the sound tech.
Yeah.
Buy them a drink, do whatever, make friends with them. I said, because you got all these sliders. And they're all difficult.
Yeah.
Everybody else has one, and they're easy. They're usually DI. We're direct boxes, input. Right. Everybody else is an easy mix. You are hard. If the sound tech don't like you, that bank, you go, the hell with that. You know, if he really likes you, you know, you're gonna get a good mix. He's the guy who's gonna make or break you.
And probably don't try and dictate to him what you want, because he probably knows his room.
Yeah.
You
can tell them your sound, kind of what you're going for, and also they want a hole in your bass drum. You know, if you're,
that's one
in
thing.
a jazz situation, it's not, but if you're in rock and roll, R&B, or country, they want a hole in your bass drum.
It does give you more power, but for our videos, I never do that because it maxes out the diaphragm of the mic. It literally, because it's air that's hitting.
Yeah.
And that air, it will give you a strong punch, but it just, if you look at the waveform, it always just flattens it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if you have to put a hole, put the smallest hole possible.
Sure.
I'm used to playing with a hole in my bass because my bass drum, used to play big venues always, and the bass is always mic'd. And if the sound tech wants a hole in the bass drum, he gets it.
Sure.
That's it. Whatever he wants, he gets, because he's my sound.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever you want, you got it.
He's out there listening.
That's right. Yeah, if that's what you desire, you
what
get it.
What you hear in the monitors is similar to what they're getting out there.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
I wish I could go and see like a 70s live show, man. Because I watch recordings of it.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, the low end was a little more in control. So it's because old music, everyone really likes old music. They say like the bass was cleaner back then. A lot of that is just because there's a lot less of it. And if you listen to old recordings, the whole like EQ curve, modern stuff, it's like this. The bass is way high. But old stuff, it's kind of even.
Mm-hmm. And then it came to the point where they felt the drums should be on top.
Yeah,
sure. Which is sometimes too much. I was listening to through Wisconsin, the land of country music, by the way. a lot of fields, some new country, new country in there. And God, the drummers, sometimes they have hip hop drummers or whatever.
Sure.
Which I have to laugh. Somebody came up with the term hick hop.
That's funny.
Oh God, I burst out laughing.
I never heard that before.
They're doing a little rap with a country, Country is not, I don't even know what country music means anymore, I think it's just a song like Pat Benatar or, whatever. But then again, I these guys like, Chris Stapleton come along, or Sturgill Simpson and stuff, and I like that stuff. But it seems to me more like Southern rock to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Southern rock, it's that real soul, got a lot of soul in it. I think Chris Stapleton's probably scaring the hell out of everybody in country.
You ever listen to George Jones, I think.
God, George Jones was great. That old stuff is great.
I love the way they tune the drums.
Yeah.
Because they tune them properly, in my opinion.
Even some of those guys are jazzers too. Those guitar players and stuff. You know, you go from Bob Wills, and they come from that. Yeah. And they know chord. They know their chords and stuff. Chet Atkins. Chet Atkins was no slouch. You know, they were those country guys were. You know, they were Nashville Cats. One of my favorite tunes. Love it. Yeah. Those Nashville Cats, clean as country water. Yeah. Have you ever heard the tune? You're young. You probably haven't.
No, Spoonful. I don't know.
Listen to it. Nashville Cats, they clean as country water.
Yeah.
They're wild as Mountain Dew. Been playing since days, babies.
I'll scope it out.
Yeah, about Nashville players. And those play God. They're so. I remember a couple years ago, I was in Nashville. A buddy of mine, one of the few singer-songwriters down there, guitar players, told me, go get, Jim Oblong is his name. I said, go check out this guitar player. And he said, I think it was at some VFW in East Nashville. Go check, you'll see all the Nashville guitar players watching him in the audience. And he said his daytime gig is drummer for Paul Simon. And he says, on keyboards too. He's the same talent on keyboards too. Wow. It's like those guys, some guys are just way too talented. You know, it's like, stop it already. Just stop it. But and some kids coming up too, man. Everything is there for them. Yeah. You know, it's not in our day to try to pick up stuff. And if it's written down, you could always get if somebody would write it down for you. But to try to get it off a record or something, now you can even digitally, you can slow it down and pick it. I know guitar players do that a lot.
When I was in college, there was this thing called the Amazing Slow Downer, it was this digital thing. It would slow it down and not change the pitch.
Yeah, so right. That's it.
But that's cheating.
Yeah, I know it's cheating. But now
I
all
transcribed
is yours. You know, these
Louis
kids
Bellson
come up.
solo.
These kids come up, man. I know this kid can play like Jimi Hendrix or like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I said, yeah. The thing is, Jimi Hendrix could play like that before anybody else. Yeah. You know, that came out of himself, his head. You know, it didn't come out of other records or digital or anything.
It can be
online.
Difficult.
It didn't come online. It
can be difficult nowadays. There's so much information that it's hard not to be derivative.
Yeah, right, right.
Sometimes it's over.
Well, back then it was kind of nice. You get your bass. You know, you learn, you mimic people, and then you use that as your springboard to try to develop your own voice.
Right.
I guess that's the key with any true musician or vocalist or whatever. You want like a vocalist. There's some vocalists, Stevie Winwood. His voice, anywhere. He can be with anybody, or Mel Torme would be one.
Sure.
That's nobody sounds like that. So to be your own, to find your own voice. I guess that's always the key. And playing too. I remember the first time I learned I know everybody did it. Even Gab doesn't know, but the bottom, the boom. The rough, the snare, top hat, floor tom kick. Boom, boom. First time I learned that, I overused that for the first year, and then finally I wouldn't touch it again for years. I said, what am I doing?
That makes me think of Max Roach and Big Sid.
Yeah, right. It goes way back. It's really when it's like the massive flam, like a double flam. Yeah, I got volume 2, guys. It's like when these rockers would get this 20-inch China type. The band starts getting too loud, I'm going to start hammering that thing and beat your guys into submission. I remember one rock and roll band I played, they would say, true rock and roll, each man for himself. This was a band called Cats Under the Stars. Well, they played everything. They were kind of jazz-oriented, rock and roll, R&B, Deadheads, and a mixture of bluegrass, everything.
Yeah.
Those wild mixes and stuff. But just, yeah.
Yeah, you had a decent show. You had fun at least.
I had this show I didn't do really well selling. I kind of picked up stuff that people didn't want this year.
You brought a cool kit though. I love that Gretsch clown kit.
Yeah, it's from it's a Shriner kit from the it's from Minneapolis or Minnetonka suburb of Minneapolis.
For those listening, there's a walkthrough video that I'm going to put up before this, so you can see it there.
And it's a
2021 drum show.
This would be a multi-band.
Yeah.
Set, and the bass drum head probably makes a set. There's a picture of a clown painted on the bass drum.
Very
That's
cool.
incredible.
Yeah.
All this is from the mid-'60s.
Is that a calfskin head that's been painted?
No, it's the plastic one. In fact, if you look from the back, you see the Gretsch logo on it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, you can see the silhouette of the Gretsch logo.
They must have had like a local artist make that.
Yeah, and he painted it, and painted it while the head was on the bass drum hoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't take it off, but Yeah, and fortunately it's a 20 bass with a 12-14 matching snare.
Yeah.
And the nice sizes. So,
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and so but next year the next year's show I'll be all in. This year I went down to one space. Next year I'm back to 2. I've always been 2 spaces.
We'll probably bring some stuff next year too. This year we just brought like a video. You got to watch all our videos.
No, next year I think everybody's been bottled up for so long, and the people that couldn't get to the show, about half of them came to the show. Was about half full this year. Still a fun show. Great to see everybody.
Tough to get here if you're coming from
for
over
flying,
the pond.
Especially overseas and stuff.
Yeah.
Next year everybody will be there. Look out! All hell's going to break loose. Bring your earplugs.
Yeah.
And it'll be great next year. Everybody's so, like I said, so bottled up. They're going to love it.
For those, we all know, like, because I mean, we're all musicians. Our ears are valuable.
Yes.
We need them. You only have so many, powerful rim shots.
Mm-hmm.
This year, there's always one guy
who's
right next to you, and you're not expecting it, and it's just
the world.
Bam! That rim shot. I had one of those.
The world's loudest snare drum. Yes, the world's loudest snare drum, made of some high-tech metal. And then some guy starts out with a rim shot that, like he's pounding pounding a nail with a hammer.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Or
could you give me a warning before you did that?
Yeah, I know they should. In fact, they should. And then you got the people there like, listen to my chops, everybody, for a half hour.
Sure.
Like, shut up, dude.
The jam session started. The NAMM show's even worse.
At least they do police it though.
Do you ever go to the NAMM show?
I used to go quite a bit back with the drumstick with ProMark.
Yeah, we still did that in Chicago, man. That'd be cool. Now it's
that'd be cool
LA
too.
now.
I'll probably go to the next NAMM show just for the old times. The first NAMM show I went to, I was just so overwhelmed. I ended up in the wrong level, where they had the grand pianos.
Oh yeah.
A massive room full of grand pianos. I said, "Oh my God, this is big." And then I finally found that it was just, I was walking around. I call it NAMM struck.
It's overwhelming.
I had a glaze, and then you kind of have to have a
and you
plan.
You get nothing done then.
You need a plan because it's easy to get sidetracked. I walked around. There's Carol Kay playing bass with a couple little people, and got a couple of players, little trio and stuff. And
you got Joey DiFrancesco over there.
All these famous players. I almost got knocked over by who's the guy with Kiss, Gene Simmons.
Oh yeah,
doing a reality show.
Ooh.
The camera crew's coming down and it bang, get knocked out of the way because he's walking through.
That's funny.
And he goes to the Zildjian booth, and he takes a drumstick and he balances on it on his nose. And I'm thinking, this guy does have talent.
Nice.
And he borrows this a real good-looking gal in the booth next to us just to come along because he needs a good-looking woman,
Sure.
To hang out with him for a little bit of the video.
Yeah.
And at the end of though, she's part of this whole bit. At the end, she asked him for his autograph. He said, "No, you'll just sell it on eBay."
Oh man.
Nothing. She got nothing for her. She got used. Yeah, but it was funny. But I used to have a ball there with ProMark because ProMark was like family to me.
Right.
And in fact, when I was with the drumsticks, I never had a contract with them. We just had verbal agreement.
Oh wow.
We had to finally have a contract eventually when they wanted to go after somebody who was knocking them off.
Oh, okay.
In fact, in the beginning, first 10 years, we had what I called an assumed verbal agreement.
Yeah.
I could have went off on my own anytime. I could have had Vic Firth or anybody make sticks for me and be a big player.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been right. Herb treated me right. We had mutual respect for each other. So, and another thing I'm really proud of with my business, well, I sold it at the end of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
A wonderful guy, Ed Bernach, bought it. It's in the Minneapolis area. I had 9 employees. One at that time was leaving. So I had 8, and I told him, I said, you keep all your employees, everything will be fine. Yeah. To this day, he still has them all.
That's awesome, man.
And so to leave it, because I guess when you start a business, you kind of eventually become responsible for other people's lives as you hire people.
Right.
And it's something you don't think about because you're starting to think, can I make it? Can I get a few bucks out for this and stuff? And eventually, as it balloons, And I know, unfortunately, with ProMark, when they were bought by somebody, D. Dario bought them. Yes,
yep,
right. That's right.
Now,
I remember that now. Anyway, unfortunately, a lot of people lost their jobs, and it's because it was overlap. I don't know the reason for it, but But it's sad. It was just sad.
The old WFL Ludwig story, you know.
Yeah, it's just sad to see all those. You know, like I said, they were like family, and but you know, but that's business, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's with me. I was able to do it. I was able to keep, you know, people. The hot rods are still made in Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
Oh, that's good.
And now they ship them to New York City.
Yeah.
Where's that salsa made? New York City. Remember that commercial?
Sure.
Instead of Texas. This salsa made in New York City.
I think I remember.
How do they know about making salsa? But D. Dario, incredible string. Oh God, I saw how they make strings. It's mind-boggling how.
Yeah, no, I've never.
And they have a full-time machine shop. They have employees, full-time employees in the machine shop. And they told me, they said, you come back, you know, in a couple of months, it won't be the same. Something will be different.
Yeah,
they're constantly developing.
Innovating.
Yeah, constantly. Yeah, it's nice to have a machine shop.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I got to see Evans drum heads, how they're made.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
They got the new skin tone, I think. Those are cool heads.
Is that? Yeah.
I don't do a ton with Evans just because I always just use Remos on all the videos and stuff, but they make great stuff. It's not
right. Yeah, it's
not that I don't like them. It's just kind of like.
And you know what I use? I use like I have 60s and 70s Ambassador. I had stacks of them.
Oh yeah.
Remo Ambassadors.
The old ones.
And they were the ones that came on the vintage drums. So with the tiny little logos on them.
Sure.
Yeah. Instead of the big crown,
I've
or
seen
just tiny little crown logos. And those on it. In fact, I remember one time years ago I got a bunch from you.
Yeah.
I bought a bunch. You had a bunch in the back.
In the old.
In the tiny
boxes.
in the little store. Yeah. Yeah. You had a bunch of them. I said, yeah, I use those on my vintage drums, and you know. I always say if you can't make a drum sound good with coat of ambassadors, it's either the drummer or it's you. It's not the head.
Sure.
Unless the head's out or something's wrong with the head, but it's But that's what they always had: coated ambassadors, or then the diplomat or the emperor.
Do you use on your snare side? Do you use ambassadors or diplomats?
I use ambassadors everywhere.
Some snare people are big diplomat.
Yeah, diplomats will work too, but I get enough. The ambassadors resonate enough for me.
Yeah.
And I don't use real wires either. Just use good wires. My favorite snare now is a Camco 8-lug 5x14 wood. And they're all different. Yeah. They all have a little different mojo, a little different magic to them. But this one really sounds nice. They have a nice casual snare bed. Very unlike the Gretsch wooden ones.
Those are huge.
The beds go way in.
Yeah.
And you always get that ripple in there. And
I think they may have been the first guys to do the 52 or no.
Yeah, the wide strand.
Not 52, but
nobody's ever been able to count them.
And that's
I lost count.
And they kind of deaden the drum. It doesn't really.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to put that on a drum with a super deep snare.
Yeah.
That it would seem like you'd want real thin wires on that snare bit. But
there's a Gretsch snare sound, which is kind of boxy and like breathy maybe.
Yeah.
It can be good for certain things.
Yeah.
But it's not usually what I'm going for.
Yeah, it's not usually what most drummers are going for.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got an Elvin story about that, but I don't think I can tell it.
Hey, maybe
I don't want to tell
maybe
it.
next year we'll do another one.
Next year. I'll go quick. Art, let's see. Art Blakey story. Quick one. Art Blakey had a
go for it.
At a clinic. Anyway, Art starts the clinic. Art says, "Hey, hi everybody." Goes and he starts pointing on people. He says, "Why do you play drums?" And the guy says, "Well, for artistic expression or whatever. Why do you play drums?" "So it helps me, gives me, these creative, lofty answers and artistic answer. Why do you play drums?" And everybody's asking him. It's intimidating. He points right at you and asks you.
Yeah.
So you have to answer. You have to give him something. Everybody gets done, and he just says, "I play drums to feed my family."
That's awesome.
And the room got really quiet. It's like, oh boy, he's going to be better. That's an incentive.
Yeah.
Feed my family, But I always love stories like that where people. And there's quite a few about Elvin. Yeah.
I believe it.
What a major character. Yeah. Yeah, so
I never got to see either of them.
I saw Elvin quite a few. One time he was a little early, so we were at a booth right behind. This was at the Dakota Jazz Club, the old club in St. Paul. It was really nice because you didn't even sit behind the band.
Yeah.
And we were right behind the drums. And Alvin comes out, we're sitting in the booth right behind the drums, comes out, hey guys, I'm a little early, mind if I sit with you for a while? And he's just chatting around, and of course, we're right behind him, so we get, the loudest thing we hear from the drums is growling.
Oh, yeah.
As he plays, he growls.
Sure,
and
sure.
It was so cool. Yeah,
that's the best thing about jazz, man, the intimate. I've been to clubs like that.
Yeah,
on stage.
And it's a club, I can try anything. I remember Brian Blade going for a fill and just blowing it. And he just burst out laughing. And it's like, that's how you play. He's so loose and experimental. And you're experimenting. Not everything's going to work.
Sure.
And same with the players. Your experiment does work. But if some little thing does work, you imagine, you put it away and go, okay, that worked. I'm going to try that later and then do something else with it,
Yeah.
And that's why jazz is the ultimate. That's why even incredible classical musicians sometimes, you find that jazz is their first love.
Yeah.
Even though it's structured and everything they are, is written down. They realize that, man, with this music, I have freedom.
Yeah.
And in rock and roll, you're pretty restrained. I think Pete Townshend said you count to 4 and start all over again.
Yeah, especially as a drummer. As a drummer, you really, in jazz, you really get to become part of that part.
The whole conversation. You're more in the conversation.
Whereas you have a very set role in rock.
Yeah, where you're the drummer, and the drummer, you're more of the foundation that we're building on.
Yeah.
It's not, don't talk back.
That's why more people, it makes it more accessible, I think, when people, because people kind of, they know what's coming next, so they feel like they can become a part of it more. Whereas jazz, it's like, you really gotta become, study jazz to understand what's going on.
Like I said in the early days, I would play all styles, but the jazz gigs I'd be on, in Minneapolis, we have so many good players. It's like in the old days of Jeff Bocaron in the studio. He'd be in the studio, Ralph Humphrey can play this better than me, or somebody else can do this better than I can. Hire them, and they would start that. Would say, no, here's the drummer you need for this. Well, like with Steely Dan or whatever, and that's where they started those multiple drummers on those albums and stuff, because people were, you need Bernard Purdy on this. You just shuffle, man. He'll do that shuffle on it. I know.
I actually only recently really worked on and learned how to kind of play that feel.
Oh yeah.
It just was never something I did. It's
Man, I think Jim Pocaro said you want him on this. You don't want me. I can do it, but you want him. If you want the real deal, get him.
Really cool.
He's the guy. He's known for it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice. Where drummers do have a nice community. Where in general we're very supportive. Which is really nice to see, like drum clinics and all that stuff. I remember the first time I was younger. I came to Minneapolis. We have the great Gordy Knudsen. If you don't know who Gordy Knudsen is, just go online and check him out. Yeah. But anyway, he was doing something. I thought it was so cool. On the break, I asked him, man, what were you doing there? And he said, oh, I got that from so and so.
Yeah.
He said, I borrowed that from so and so. And here, basically, it's just this. I go, oh, that's what. Because a lot of times drums is just like being a magician.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how you do it.
Right.
It's implied. Some of it's implied. I'm thinking and hearing
looks
something.
Looks impossible, but it's not.
It's like, that's how you do it. Yeah. Right. And he was so generous. And I said, isn't that cool? That's so cool. And I was always generous with people I knew. People would ask me stuff, and I'm still to this day. Yeah. In fact, I had 3 drum sets at one time that I would just give out to kids for nothing. Just use them. Have fun with them, play with them. Give them back. I'd like to have them back within a year or 2.
Sure.
And if you become a drummer, go to the music store and buy a set.
Save up.
And then save up. But at least you can try it. And I say, even if you don't want it, even if you play for 6 months, you don't want to play anymore. When you listen to music, you hear, I hear 3 tom-toms. I hear a closed hi-hat, crash cymbal, snare drum. I can hear the bass drum. You'll hear it. And I jokingly say, you'll know more about drums than most guitar players I play with now. So it'll help you anyway, whether you want to play drums or not. You'll get that. And being a kid is trying out stuff. I remember the first kid I gave a set to, and 9 months later I get the set back. He said, I'm going to play lacrosse now. I would go for it.
Sometimes.
Try it out, box of chocolates thing. Try out everything you can when you're a kid.
Sure.
Try it. And you'll find something that really hits, and it may not be drum, might be guitar, might be, who knows.
Yeah, that community thing amongst drummers you were talking about, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like the vintage drum community is a little bit like that too. It's like
Yeah, oh, definitely.
We're all in this, and we all kind of help each other out. And
definitely. So I know somebody looking for that. I always hear that.
Right.
Can you find this for me? I know somebody. I pride myself. I'll tell you, vintage drum-wise, I cringe at people who pull snare drums off of drum sets, vintage drum sets.
Oh, yeah.
Especially matching snare drums. I mean, maybe if it's a supraphonic off a 67 but even then, if it came with the kit, serials match, leave it with the kit. But I've seen too many Radio King sets in the old days pulled off their sets. And I found too many Radio King bass drums and toms without the snare.
We actually have an example of that right now. There's a White Marine Pearl Radio King kit in back that we're gonna keep together because we don't want to separate, and it'll be way tougher to sell. I understand sometimes as a business you can make more money doing it.
Sure. And maybe you do it from a business point of view. You might do it, but if you do it, I will cringe. I'll tell you, and I'll tell you what.
Try not to.
Try. There you go, please. I know. There was a vintage drum business in the early days that would always have snare drum optional. Every set they got, they would peel the snare drum off and say it's optional.
Right.
Because they can make a few bucks selling for more. Now, if you got a pre-serial number Ludwig downbeat set with a matching 4x14 snare drum, that should stay on the set.
Yeah.
And for instance, way back, a top hat set. It's not called top hat in Kane, folks. Ludwig never called it that.
What do they call it?
Top hat.
Top hat. Okay.
I believe Ned Immerman from Vintage Drum Center nicknamed it top hat. Named it top hat in Kane. I don't think he had the catalog.
Oh, yeah.
So he just described it as he saw it. Top
I've
Hat
never
and
seen the catalog.
No, the catalog, it was never called Top Hat and King. I don't know if Ludwig called the later version that they came out with Top Hat and King. Maybe they did, but when you're describing the early one, it's a top hat.
What about the Leedy Autograph of the Stars?
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's the correct name for that one?
I believe it is, yeah.
That's another cool one. That one's even more rare, I think.
But anyway, the top hat, there was a top hat set in New England. I had bought a snare drum, top hat snare drum. And later on, somebody told me it came off a set.
Oh, no.
And I said, really? I bought the snare drum off a set. It was in the New England area. And Liam Holland from California bought the set. And Liam found out I had the snare drum. And I was good friends with Liam. We were all good friends, all of us collectors. Even we go back, we had Bill Pace. There were so many great collectors. Of course, John Aldridge's early days, Rob Cook, Don Walker out of Colorado. But anyway, Liam calls me up one day and goes, "Hey Joe, what's it like? How's the weather in Minnesota? All this, He goes, I said, "Shut up, Liam. I know what you want." I said, "You want the snare drum, and you're going to get it, because that set's getting back together."
It's meant to be.
And that set's back together, and Robert Bowler at Drummer Tradition has it.
Yes.
So that set was parted, and I got it back together. And I'm happy, at least. I've done that with a few old vintage kits, but that's the coolest one.
You know what? That kit behind you there, that lavender, that used to have a snare drum.
Oh yeah.
But it has a bunch of not original parts. So we sold the snare because those hoops are not original.
Yeah,
and
of course.
The hoop on the tom is not original.
Yeah.
Check out that bottom tom there. If you look at it, that's a cool, very hard to find because that's like right in between.
I'm sure you people listening to this are amazed at that drum.
Well,
visually, now you're going to describe it.
Yeah, you're right. Visually, so it's a tack.
These microphones have cameras.
Cameras? No, of course not. Well, but then we got the visual part too. But for people, we usually put out the audio version first. Yeah. It's like a tack head that then clamps down, so it's tunable tack head, which is actually I've never seen one quite like it.
We're on camera too?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know that. God, I would have dressed better. I would have sucked in my stomach. Oh God, I would have sucked in my stomach.
Oh, you're fine.
I earned this, babe. This is COVID right here, speaking, man. I'm a swimmer. I haven't swam for over a year.
Yeah,
that's how I keep in shape, and
I gotta get to the gym myself.
Yeah, so we got on the next one. I'll be lean and mean.
Me too.
Oh, like your dad, man. Steve, God, he's looking great.
Totally.
What did he lose? How many?
He did the paleo diet for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
God, he looks sharp.
Cutting out basically the bread.
Yeah, okay.
Bread and pasta.
Yeah, good.
I don't know if I could live without bread.
He's
and pasta.
even a little faster, and his hands shake a little more. Yeah, he's looking for drums.
For sure.
he's out there looking. Yeah, he's cool. He's cool.
But yeah, man, is there anything else you wanna touch on?
I don't know. I think autographs of stars. I'm amazed that there are not more autographs, leading autographs of star sets.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of autographs on there.
Yeah.
And back in the day, if somebody made a drum set of your autograph, I think this was a marketing thing. I think they said, let's put every drummer we know, their autograph on here, and they'll buy the kit.
Yeah.
Right? So there should have been, everybody who had an autograph on there should have had a drum set.
Yeah.
Bought it. And you'd think there would be a lot more of those than top hat sets.
So, like, who are those autographs? Are they all drummers from that?
Yeah.
I never even just, like, thought about that.
Grab one sometime, take a look. All I know is you got to worry whether you got lugged out, meaning a lug put over your name, or oh no. Oh no! If you bought this set, I'm sure they have your name. Sonny Greer never got lugged out. Put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah, Sonny Greer was always probably right by the badge.
Yeah.
I forgot how. There's a lot of names on there.
There are.
And that was funny. The great Mike Curado, we all know, the great snare drum collector, San Francisco area.
He wasn't here this year, but
next year he'll be there. You had the White Marine Pearl, the rare White Marine Pearl autographs of the star set without the stars, and it was all these, and it was in my booth. A collector friend just displayed it in my booth, and Mike was there. As a joke, I was going to take some Scotch tape, put it over it, and put Mike Curado as one of the autographs, and then have Mike start looking. Mike, look at all those autographs on that set, and have him read it. Look at all those old timers, and have Mike Curado. But I was afraid that if I peeled the tape off, I might do something to the finish.
Sure.
And it wasn't my finish.
Can't be too careful.
Yeah, especially with somebody else that said, "Oh yeah, by the way, I ruined the finish on your bass drum on your one of a kind set." So I didn't want to screw with it, but
just turn the drummer how you want.
Yeah, I know. Put it upside down, and that's the way. But oh God. But I think we covered some bases here, didn't we, Steve?
Definitely. And like I said,
and we had some laughs. Did we? With some. Yeah.
We can do another one next year. I want to do one with Mike next year. Maybe I'll do one with Mike before on Friday. Maybe one with you on Monday. It'd be great. We can make it a yearly tradition.
There you go. There you go. And now I can look at everybody. Yeah, geez, I didn't know.
No, that's you there.
Oh, I don't even know what camera I'm on. I don't even know what camera I'm on.
I always
I'm playing to that camera, and I feel like a newscaster who's clueless, who has one day on the job, and that's it.
Yeah.
And now, back from... oh God.
This will be great. I'll put it up on YouTube.
I had a good time.
Yeah, you'll be able to. It'll be there forever.
Okay. All right, so we'll sign off. Well, you sign off. It's your show.
Oh yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody, and hope to see you at the 2022 drum show.
There you go. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.